All right, guys, you're here with Josh Thompson. We are going to give you a little bit more of my Punk's opinion. Let's talk just real quick. Because I'm not going to really break down the whole card last night. The UFC, I think, what was it? UFC Fox Sports 1 card with Yair Rodriguez versus Korean Zombie. Wow. I mean, the fight was, to me, the fight was okay. You know, it was good. It was entertaining. Yair had moments where it felt like he was going to run away with it. I thought both of them, for the inactivity, for being inactive for so long, that they both fought really well. Definitely very entertaining fight. Good fight. I'm going to be 100% up front, and full disclaimer, I'm not a big Yair fan. I just, with Rodriguez, I'm not a big fan. I do think he's flashy. I think it's good. I would have been interested to see if the fight would have went the distance on how the judges would have scored it, because Yair did a lot of flashy stuff, but nothing really landed, you know. So it looks cool, it's all great, but I don't know. It just, to me, it felt like nothing really landed. Nothing was all that great. Sure, he was able to give him a little cut over the the lip. You know, the damage. I think it's entertaining. I think it's very entertaining. This is the entertainment business. Yair is very entertaining. The Korean Zombie is very entertaining. I love the style, the two of them together. You know, the kicks were devastating. I'm watching the replay right now. The kicks were devastating. Right off the bat, he hit him with a beautiful kick. I mean, but he just caught him right behind the knee. It kind of broke his balance. You could tell that the leg kicks weren't really having a full effect on him, or there wasn't anything that made him switch stances ever. He kind of just kept walking forward. The Korean Zombie was just able to keep pushing. He never was really able to land a real clean, solid shot, something that I thought felt like wobbled him. Even when he wobbled back Yair, it was more like an off balance. He was throwing at the same time, and I wouldn't say that like he was rocked, because he recovered very fast. He recovered very well. You know, he had some beautiful spinning elbows, and obviously the last elbow was just with, I want to say, less than a second left in the fight, was amazing. I mean, right at the buzzer, he threw that little back up elbow with his head ducked down. I mean, these are things that like you just throw to see if anything lands. I mean, I don't know how you even practice things like that. So it's fascinating to see him do things like this, but I wouldn't say there was anything that I felt like Korean Zombie had hit Yair with that really wobbled him, you know, that made him, I mean, sure, there's things that clipped him and rocked him, but Yair came back right away with a lot of good stuff. I mean, beautiful knockout there at the end. I think, yeah, exactly, right? I mean, producer Dave, who's a little hungover from last night, I think he's watching, it looks like he's watching the fight for the first time. He probably watched it last night, just doesn't remember or recall it. But just a devastating knockout. I feel really bad for the Korean Zombie, only based on, I mean, I would have loved to have seen it had this fight went the distance, or at least taken a look at the scorecards to see how the fight would have turned out. I don't know if we can maybe potentially find those, but it was a good fight, man. I mean, like, it was entertaining all the way around. There was moments where I felt like Korean Zombie could have potentially pushed the pace a little bit more in certain areas. I think with somebody like Yair, you've got to stay in his grill the whole time. Not a whole lot of space for him to use his kicks, but you got to be careful too, because you saw a little bit of Yair with his takedowns, trying for takedowns, beautiful little spinning things, spinning elbows, spinning kicks, that little front kick to the thigh. I'm really against it. I hate the fact that we're allowed to do that. It's not even to the thigh, it's like right to the front of the knee. And it bugs me. Like, it really does bug me, because, I mean, you were talking about people's careers and their livelihood later on in life having an effect to them. I mean, I know with CTE and stuff, we're also talking about those type of issues as well. But I feel like one little adjustment would be good, where we don't allow kicks straight to the front of the knee would be nice. But, hey, this is the fight game. This is what we do. But what a devastating knockout. I gotta tip my hat off to Yair. I'm not a big fan, I guess, of just him. I think it's based off the whole Zabit thing, where he didn't want to fight him, then he left, and then you know, he kind of came back to the UFC with his tail between his legs. It rubbed me kind of the wrong way. I don't know. It just, you know, and then for him to come in and have a good fight, I mean, I'm happy for him. But, you know, that's just my take on it, just my opinion on, you know, on that type of thing. I hate to see people leave a promotion trying to stand their ground, and then they come quivering back, you know, and it's kind of weird, man. Like, I feel like you know, I mean, it's bad enough that fighters, we kind of already feel like we're at the mercy of the promotion. You know, I know a lot of the guys at the UFC. I know, like, you know, when I first fought for them the first time, I was thinking to myself, man, it's like you have nowhere else to go. But with all the other options that you have now, you see him with Eddie Alvarez getting a huge contract with ONE FC. You know, obviously Bellator's a viable option, a very viable option, given that, you know, Roy McDonald's there, Phil Davis is there, Matt Mitrione's there, you know, Fedor Emelianenko, they're all there. They all had options to stay with the UFC or go with the UFC, and they chose to go to Bellator. So all those things being said, I just feel I would have liked to have seen. Sure, he's great. I think it would be great for. I'm glad he's here doing what he loves. You know, he obviously wanted to be here. He wanted to be here in the UFC, but I would have. I would have loved to have seen. You know, for him to stick to his guns and continue to leave and, you know, fight somewhere else. But hey, then we wouldn't have seen this knockout that we saw last night. You know, nasty. I mean, and here's the thing though, he's the Korean Zombie, but if you watch, it looks like he fell like a zombie in a movie. You know, if you go back and you watch the replay, I feel so bad for him, man. I mean, the
score had him winning.
Korean Zombie?
Yeah.
Yes. See, the live scorecard was Korean Zombie was up 4 rounds. Wow. 4 rounds to none. Oh, poor guy, man. Poor guy. All he had to do was 1 second left. He would have won. Oh, man. Almost want to see the fight again now. You just showed me those scorecards. Jeez. 10-9 first round. Zombie 10-9 second round. 10-9 third round. 10-9 fourth round. Zombie. All for Zombie. Oh, man. You gotta be. Jeez, man. I feel so bad. Well, it is what it is. You know, great fight though. Great night. The other fight I was very impressed with was obviously Cowboy Cerrone, man. I mean, longtime veteran, 35 years old. I love when us older guys, you know, are able to shut up the younger guys, and I think it was great to see Mike Perry bit off a little bit more than he could chew. He looked impressive, but you know, people have to remember that the fight game isn't generally not decided in the first, you know, minute. And Mike Perry's super explosive. It's not decided always in the first round. He had a beautiful little reversal there from the ground when Mike Perry took him down with that little outside leg trip, you know, and Cerrone was able to like kind of hook the arm and give the full roll, push on the hip. And then he, you know, I mean, one thing that you can say with Cowboy, he's always been dangerous on the ground. I just wish he would utilize it more. He's got good kicks, great knees, phenomenal. I mean, on the ground though, I mean, he's always been phenomenal on the ground. He's got so many submissions. He now just takes over for the UFC record, most wins in UFC history.
Most finishes as well.
Most finishes as well. I mean, it's probably not hard to get to that record given that he fights, you know, like they said, 14 times a month. But you know what, though? The guy's an animal. I mean, this is a guy that when he does it, he goes all in, man. I mean, he's balls deep right now in this whole sport. He loves it. He loves to fight. There's no doubt about that he loves doing this. He's been doing it at the highest level for the longest time. You know, just phenomenal, man. I'm like super excited for him, happy for him. Every time I've met him, we fought on some of the same cards together. You know, he was the fight that I felt like I was always supposed to have when I went back to the UFC the second time. And you know, it was but still, regardless, just I love watching him fight, man. You know, I'm happy for him. You can see his little son there. That's awesome. I think it's great when fighters sometimes, you know, especially at that age, bring their son in or their kids in, and you know, especially after a victory, and you get an opportunity to see the true side of a fighter. And to me, that was phenomenal. So good to see. Happy for him. The other fight that kind of was good was the Germaine De Randamie fight and Raquel Pennington fight. Good fight. Very, very happy. Very impressed. Man, Raquel, I felt like she had moments where she could have won the fight, and she just wasn't able to get a big offensive takedown or something that would really kind of solidify the round for her. And that fight to me was a lot closer than 30-27. They had Germaine winning 30-27, I think, on all the scorecards. And I felt like the fight was a lot closer than that. You know, it was, I could have seen one round or maybe even potentially two going to Raquel. I mean, I'm a big Germaine fan. We trained together at AKA for a couple years. Super nice girl. Happy for her to come back and get a win and get back on track. And, you know, Raquel's got the fact that she missed weight, you can tell, and I've been there in that situation a little bit, was when I was supposed to fight Yves Edwards. I was supposed to be fighting him for the UFC title at the time. And then I was supposed to fight also Anthony Pettis for the UFC title. There was several times where I was supposed to fight Gilbert Melendez for the Strikeforce title. And it just was like moments where you get hurt or the fight didn't happen, and you just almost like lose interest in the fight game itself. You're like, man, what am I doing this for? You feel like everything you worked for didn't come to a head. It's supposed to all work perfectly, and in the fight game, it never does. And so I think she needs to refine herself. Not that she needs to change her game or do any of those things. She needs to do is she needs to find herself and like be happy with where she's at. I mean, she's won maybe 2 fights away now for a title shot, but she's nasty good. I mean, Raquel Pennington is phenomenal, but just seems like this fight didn't seem like she was fully motivated. I think she kind of came in like, oh, whatever happens, happens. You know, but you could tell, I think in the beginning of the third round or halfway through the second round, she just started showing that, wow, I'm in this fight. Like, all I have to do is like come in and just push a little bit harder and to potentially win this round or win this fight. And you could tell she started trying a little bit harder, like halfway through the round. The first round, maybe first round and a half, she was kind of looked like she was just going through the motions. And as the fight went on, she started picking it up, and I was like, wow, this is good. This is going to be a great fight if she can get it together. She just couldn't solidify a takedown. There was one moment where she lifted Germaine up off the ground, and I thought for sure she was going to get her down. She just couldn't get the takedown. And I've trained with Germaine, and Germaine's nasty in the clinch. She's strong as an ox, man. She's super strong. True story on this. Her and I were sparring one day, and I was using her for my 5th round, getting ready for, I think I was getting ready for Pettis at the time, before Pettis had pulled out. And that chick fucking jumped in the air. I was like dog dead tired after going 2 rounds with Khabib and 2 rounds with Tomas Dion. And man, that chick did a spinning back kick right to my fucking face. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to be, huh? Germaine just kicked me right in the face, like square in the face. Boom. And I was like, oh, man. I picked her up, threw her on the ground, and just started ragdoll. So mad. I was so pissed. I was like, you're going to do that to me in the 5th round? I'm exhausted, and you're out here fresh? Oh, man, I was pissed. So, but she's nasty good, man. Like, she fought a boxing match and knocked out a dude. There's a video of her on YouTube. She got big power in the hands. Nasty little leg kicks, but she puts her combinations together. The problem is she's so timid in MMA because all I want to do is people want to just take her down. The fight that never happened that should have happened. Yep, there it is. Now, if you look up this video, what's the name of the video? Germaine De Randamie knocks out a man. Yeah, look up that video. She knocks this dude out, like slumps him in the corner. Just nasty good. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, it was good. But anyways, the fact that she's even fighting a guy, I'm just like, this is nuts. Yeah, this dude trying to swarm her like he's gonna beat her up, and he's landing some shots. And, oh shit! Damn, son.
Dude.
Wow.
Fight a woman with the potential.
Damn. Damn. Look, he can't even get up. That's fucked up. She's nasty. Look at her. Man, that's crazy. I love it. Anyways, you can't be mad at that. I mean, she's good. A lot of these girls are really afraid to stand with her. The fight it's sad. The fight that never will happen probably is a fight with her and Chris Cyborg. I would have loved to have seen that fight. I think Cyborg would have stood with her. I think she would have potentially threatened the takedowns just to make Germaine think about it. But man, I would have loved to have seen that fight. That would have been a phenomenal fight. But You know, it is what it is. We get what we want. Now she's at 135. Maybe she'll be the champion there. I mean, she's going to have a hard time beating Amanda Nunes, though, if Amanda comes back down. I don't think Amanda's going to get past Cyborg, but I would have liked to have seen that fight for sure. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Those are the two of the topics talking about that, or those are the three fights that I wanted to talk about for that card. You know, other than that, I mean, you know, there were some good fights on the card, overall good. And what else? What other action is there?
There's the Ben Askren's first fight is announced for Robbie Lawler.
Ben Askren has officially been announced to fight Robbie Lawler. Look, I'm gonna take this into a bunch of other avenues with the Ben Askren thing, and man, there's so many different ways to go on with this Ben Askren thing. All right, guys, look, I personally am a Ben Askren fan. I've had the opportunity to train with him just, you know, one or two times at AKA. He came in and trained. I've trained with T Wood. My question is, do they plan on fighting? And everyone keeps telling me no, they don't. But I want to remind people that even though fighters always say that they will never fight, the only guys that I have ever really met that have not fought, that were at the same camp, was John Fitch and Josh Koscheck in DC and Kane. I mean, I'm sure there's more. Don't sit here and like bombard my comment section with, you idiot, what about this person, what about that person. I'm just saying off the top of my head while I'm sitting here, those are obviously, because those are my teammates, those are guys that I know that were offered to fight each other, that never fought each other. They had asked me to fight Gray Maynard at a time too when I was at the camp when Gray was at AKA. They had also asked how I felt about potentially fighting Khabib at the time, which Khabib was lower ranked than I was at the time. And I was like, look, this is the thing. When you get to the top, we'll have this discussion for the title. Because what people don't seem to understand is when you're talking about T Wood and you're talking about Ben Askren, and sure, I think they wrestled together at Mizzou. They've been teammates for a while. I think they trained together at Duke Rufus's for a while. I don't even know if Wood is still at Duke Rufus's. But let me ask you this. Money changes everything. And I'm not saying that they should fight. I don't think that they should. I don't think they should for the UFC. I don't think they should for any other promotion. If you feel that your friendship is worth more than that, then don't do it. And I agree with you 100%. But I also want you to understand that if that was you and you have 2 or 3 kids, and I'm just saying, if you have 2 or 3 kids and you have mouths to feed, and you have to understand that making $120,000 versus making $2 million is what you're choosing, rather than fight your friend, what do you think you're gonna do? The title itself carries that much weight. So if you say, hey, I can make $120,000 or $140,000, you know, and then 10 grand in sponsors, you know, from Reebok, okay, or I can make $2 million, you know, and another 40 grand or whatever in sponsors from Reebok, and probably another 40 or 50 in Monster or whatever else it is that have sponsoring. You're going to have to ask yourself, like, am I going to fight this guy? And am I going to live the lifestyle that I want to live? Like, I honestly believe that if that was your friend, he should understand more than anyone, because let's not forget that Robbie Lawler but T Wood used to train at American Top Team. I think he even owns an American Top Team school. I think it's something like that. Okay, or like a branch of an American Top Team school. Let's not forget that he trained with Robbie Lawler at ATT. So, and he still fought him. Okay, I mean, because that's what he needed to do. The money was the money. Like, that's what it comes down to. Now Lawler's somewhere else, I believe, but now he's fighting Ben Askren. I mean, it's not far-fetched to think that these guys won't fight. And that's what people are like thinking to themselves. Yeah, there's no way they're going to fight. There's no way. I would never fight that guy. Well, I'm not looking, and if they don't, I'm okay with it. It's fine. But what I'm saying though is, let's not be mistaken that money does tend to change people's minds. And then on top of it, the UFC does tend to get in people's minds about fighting. They do tend to throw more money at the issue or the problem generally, unless you're talking about Cain Velasquez's contract right now. Okay, they do tend to throw more money at that, but they're not going to do it this time. I mean, with Ben and T, from what I understand, that they kind of have been hinting around they would like them to fight. From what I've heard from people from the UFC, but there's also talk that T Wood doesn't know or doesn't think he can beat Ben, so he's going to go up to 185. That to me is that's a huge mistake. Like, you're going to go up to 185 and you're going to fight there, and these guys are enormous. And do I think you'll do okay? Yeah, but you're going to be like a Benson Henderson that goes from 155 to 170 dealing with these animals. These guys are huge. Can you imagine T Wood and Yoel Romero? I mean, you're talking about like guys, like someone who's explosive and fast and really good wrestler. I mean, like all the things that T Wood is, but you have to fight that guy. I mean, he's just a bigger version of you. I mean, your stand-up, or T Wood's stand-up is better, boxing, but the power and the size definitely goes to him. So all those things being said, I don't know, man. I just, people talk about that fight like it's never going to happen. I said, do not be surprised. What happens if T Wood goes up, gets mopped? He's like, you know what? I liked being champion at 170. Why don't I go back down and get that and try to get that strap from Ben? And I felt like always as a friend, when like you should understand that person is trying to feed their family too. And if anything, I would much rather lose the title or fight or defend my title against my friend. Sure, would I hate to crush their dreams? Yeah. But at the same token, what happens if you did lose? At least you know that the title and somebody that you respect and has a family and kids and things like that also has opportunity to make money for his family versus somebody you don't really care for or somebody you don't really like. That's why I think yesterday when I was watching Cowboy Cerrone fight, it's hard not to root for the guy. I mean, the guy comes out, always lays it on the line, fights his ass off, and brings his son out after. I mean, to me, that it's hard not to root for that guy. And so when you see this, like when they had talked to me when I was supposed to fight Anthony Pettis, and then I was lined up to fight Pettis. Gray Maynard had just, it was right before, I think it was right before Gray had lost to TJ Grant and TJ had went out. They were asking me after my fight with Nate, okay, look, you could be next in line for a title shot. Gray Maynard is right there. Gray Maynard's your teammate. And you have someone who is undefeated. I believe he was like 22-0 or 20-0 at the time, was Khabib, who's also on your team that's coming up. What are you going to do if you have to fight one of these guys? And I'm like, look, you know how much needs to happen between that and then? I mean, like, I'd have to fight Khabib. I'd have to fight Gray. But there was so many fights that need to happen in between there. And they started doing the speculation right after I beat Nate. And it was like, why? I don't understand why you're even doing the speculation. Because Gray ended up losing. And then Pettis ended up pulling out because I got offered the title shot because TJ Grant had been injured and basically we have never seen him since. TJ Grant was injured. So then they offered me the title shot because I was ranked number 2 or 3 or whatever it was at the time. So then Pettis ends up pulling out. I end up fighting Benson and I end up losing a split decision to him. Well, guess what? Now Khabib rolls in. There was never a chance that any of us were ever going to fight because there were so many things that had to happen in between there. And here we are years later. I'm talking like 5 years later. Khabib finally gets his title shot, 20-something-0. What I'm saying is the speculation and all the things that happened before then is stirred up either by the media or by the UFC or, to potentially start laying that egg. You have John Jones, Rashad Evans. There was a lot of push for Josh Koscheck and John Fitch. There was push in the very beginning for Cain Velasquez and DC. There was, who else am I thinking of? There's other guys, Robbie Lawler and T Wood. They fought. There's a lot of these fights that happened that the seed is planted well before well before they're even in contention to fight. The UFC is pitching it to them. or at least to the camps. So then you have like this with Mike Perry and Donald Cerrone, where maybe they didn't train as much before, maybe they trained a little bit, but what they do is they plant the seed, and then the coaches are like, hey, well, I gotta make money too. And then the other coaches are like, well, I gotta make money too. And then the fighters are in the middle going, yeah, but you train with him and you train with him and you guys watch us train, like, you know, our styles. Like, this is, you know, it causes a problem in the gym, and and the UFC knows that. And not just the UFC, I'm sure other promotions do the same shit. But that's the game plan, is that the whole thing is laid out in front of them first. And they know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to plant the seed from the very beginning that these guys are potentially going to have to fight each other. And that's kind of what we saw. We saw that a little bit with this Mike Perry fight. You know, like Winklejohn basically has been working with Mike Perry. He's like, well, I need to make my money too. And that caused a problem because Cerrone's been there for, 15-something years or something like that, putting it all on the line for him. But that doesn't affect on how on Winklejohn's money. He doesn't make money off of him because I guess Greg Jackson works with Cerrone. So obviously that put a wrinkle in the whole deal. And you have and the trainer's going to always go with the younger guy. So when they went with the younger guy, it's almost like a slap in the face to the veteran. So this is the type of thing that I'm talking about when you get into the Ben Askren and the T Wood thing. Money could make a difference in the end. It could turn into, hey, you know what? I need to feed my family too. And being the champion feeds them a lot better than not being the champion. And as much as fighters like to say, no, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to fight my friend. No, I'm not going to fight my friend. If you're going to fight your friend, there's no better way to fight your friend than if it's for the title, because at least you know that you're both are the very best, and both the very best, and you both are, ready to become champion. You both have families to feed. You both got to go through this. I mean, this is crazy, man. Like the people believe that they're not gonna fight. Maybe they won't, but I'm saying if I were you guys, I would not count this out. Now, back to Ben Askren on the whole deal. Look, I like Ben. I love watching him fight. Sure, he's not the most entertaining, but I want people to remember this: all the hype and all the things are going on right now, the conversation, all the talk, all these things. But I want you guys to remember this, okay? You guys, I want to see him fight this person. Oh, I want to see him fight that person, okay? Halfway through his first fight, because he'll be the main event, halfway through his first fight, you guys are going to sit there and go, you know what? God, man, this is why he never came to the UFC. For me, I enjoy watching him fight. Everybody, they're not going to watch him fight anymore. And the UFC, I'm telling you now, mark my words, the UFC will have him fight until he wins. As long as he keeps winning, they will have him fight. As soon as he loses, they will put him on the undercard of Facebook. Okay? Like, he will be the guy that they will kind of like start trying to weed out. They may give him one more fight against somebody who they think that maybe potentially they can beat him, so they can get him out of there. Do you guys remember Antonio McKee? Same shit. You guys remember Jake Shields? Same exact shit. All the hype, all the stuff around him. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get him. Like, we got him. We got Jake Shields. We've got him. We signed Antonio McKee. He's the longest guy with a win streak that, never fought in the UFC. All these things, right? As soon as they lost, all the hype was gone. They bumped him like so low on the card, or barely gave him some big fights. Found guys that potentially could beat them, and try to get them beat and then get them off the card. I think Antonio McKee only lost one time and they scrapped him. I'm telling you now, if they find somebody that can beat him, they will give him that. So Lawler is a stepping stone, I think, to try to get him to a title shot. You're going to see him, try to take Lawler down. Lawler has a good chance of stopping the takedown in the beginning. I think as the fight goes on, he's going to have a harder time stopping the takedown. But Lawler's this guy, man. Lawler's the guy that has always just wanted to. He's always just wanted to fight the best guys, you know, and so he will do whatever it takes to get back to the title. Lawler's a gamer. Lawler's been around for the longest time. I've always enjoyed watching Lawler fight. It's a dangerous fight for Ben, but it's an even more dangerous fight for Lawler because a loss puts him way outside of the title rankings, you know, and it keeps him away from Tyron Woodley, the potential of a rematch in that fight. So I would love to have seen that fight, you know. But there's also a little bit of what's going on with Ben Askren, talking about how Scott Coker basically exchanged, saying that that there was problems or there was something no one wanted to sign him. They offered to either borrow or take Ben Askren from Bellator, Scott Coker did, from ONE FC to put him into the tournament. Basically to say like, hey, if your guy wants to see who's the best, but we have Rory McDonald and we're going to put him in the tournament and we will have him fight Rory McDonald in the first round and he can go on and fight the rest of, fight the rest of the tournament. Well, Ben Askren's guys said no, they didn't want to fight. So Ben had said, basically Scott said, look, and Scott's like, I don't normally reply to these type of things, you know, but
The headline had come out, so a headline came out saying that Scott Coker reveals that Ben almost found himself in the welterweight tournament, and then Ben replied saying to the headline, it was on BJ Penn, saying, well, this is about half of the truth from Scott Coker. I wanted to fight Rory, and he said no. It's simple.
Yeah, well, here, okay, before you say, like, yeah, he said no, you want to fight Rory, which is fine, but no promotion is going to say, yeah, come in and fight my champion, but I'm going to sign you to a one-fight deal. Turn around and do that to the UFC. They're going to be like, yeah, fuck you. Like, it doesn't matter what promotion you are. No promotion is going to sign you to a one-fight deal to come in and fight their champion. That's why when people talk about, hey, I want to see this champion versus just champion from UFC and Bellator or from ONE FC and Bellator, whatever it is, it's never going to happen, you guys, because why would a promotion put their champion at risk and potentially lose to somebody else's champion? It's not going to happen. Those type of things aren't going to happen. Now, what we saw with Eddie Alvarez, or sorry, not Eddie Alvarez, but Ben Askren and Demetrius Johnson, that could happen where you trade a guy and then now that fighter now basically belongs to you. Now you don't care if they win 2 or 3 fights in a row. Like, if Ben Askren wins all the way up to the title, T Wood's going to have to go up or T Wood's going to have to fight his friend. Because Ben wants to be champion. Ben's been champion in ONE FC. Ben's been champion in Bellator. Ben's been champion, I don't know, wherever else he's ever fought. Okay? But with Ben, I mean, Ben has the opportunity to become the UFC champion, but he's going to have to fight T Wood. Because T Wood, unless T Wood goes up, that fight's going to have to happen. I don't see any other way for this not to happen. Why would Ben come to the 170-pound division in the UFC if he doesn't want to be champion? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm assuming T Wood's going to go up. And all the things that I've heard from the UFC, from all the people that I know that work at the UFC, that have talked to me about it, is T Wood's going to go up to 185. And if that happens, I mean, what happens when T Wood gets up there and he realizes, man, these guys are huge? Do I think he'll have some success? Yes. So did Benson Henderson. But will he be the best? No. He will not be the champion at 185. Okay? So if that's the case, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, like, you have him fight someone like Jacare. You have him fight somebody like Yoel Romero. You have him fight someone like a Luke Rockhold. I mean, he's going to have a really hard time fighting those guys. You know, his body frame is just not the same size as those guys. Luke's 6'3". You know, 6'3", long, lanky. You know, Jacare obviously has knockout power. We just saw it with Chris Weidman. Phenomenal jiu-jitsu, probably the best jiu-jitsu in the game. It's Yoel Romero, just a bigger, stronger version of T Wood. I mean, just you know, just a true athlete. I mean, but a bigger one, just a bigger person. So what's going to happen is that what's Ben Askren going to do? You know, as far as him fighting Rory McDonald, no promotion is going to ever sign you to fight their champion and then leave to a 1-fight deal. He offered to sign him to the tournament. So if Ben would have won the tournament, then I don't know what the contract would have said after that. But if Ben would have won the tournament, then either he would have been champion in Bellator, or I really don't know the full extent of the details on the end of the tournament. But he had an opportunity to fight Ed Ruth. He had an opportunity to fight Roy McDonald, become champion right off the bat with the first round fight of Roy McDonald. Then he could have fought either Lima or Korshkov or one of those guys again, in the finals. It really depends. I would have liked to. You see somebody like a Ben Askren fighting an MVP, someone who moves that well, someone who you can't even sniff his legs. That's going to be an interesting fight when Rory gets to MVP or when Ed Ruth gets to somebody like MVP. You got to catch that guy. Can Ben Askren catch him? Those would have been things that we would have been able to see. And somebody hit me up like, oh well, Ben just wanted to fight the best. All right, well then he should have went to Bellator because Rory McDonald beat T Wood. So if you want to talk about the guy that is better, well, Rory's got to win over the champion right now. Now look, obviously time changes everything, and I'm a big T Wood fan, man. I've trained with T Wood a bunch of times. Super nice guy, great guy. Hung out, we've been friends for a long time. But look, Rory's got to win over him, and we're not doing MMA math. That's just how it is. and of course, the guys from Bellator and everyone over there is they're gonna continue to repeat that. They're gonna continue to talk about that. And so if Ben really wanted to fight the best, or he wanted to say he was the best, then he would have fought Roy McDonald. Given that Roy's got to win over T Wood. Now, I think the reason why he wanted to go to the UFC is it's the only title he doesn't have. He's fought Bellator. He fought Bellator when Bjorn was there, and the promotion was run like crap, and then now the promotion's run, by Scott Coker, which is a completely different animal. You have all these guys that are there now, and they're doing big things in the welterweight tournament. This is gonna be a huge tournament this year. This whole thing's gonna be huge. All in the zone. All these things it's gonna be a huge year for Bellator. And then just to see if Ben would have jumped into this tournament would have been phenomenal, man. I would have loved to have seen this whole thing happen. But do I blame Ben? No. Ben's been the Bellator champion. He's been the ONE FC champion. He's just not the current Bellator champion. He's the Bellator champion from when Bjorn was running the thing. And they didn't have half the talent. They didn't even have a quarter of the talent that they have now. They had Lima and they have Korshkov. As far as the rest of the guys, they didn't have any of these guys. These guys. None of these guys are at the level, at that level. Ed would have loved to have seen the Ed Ruth and Ben Askren fight, or the Rory McDonald and the Ben Askren fight. Those are fights that I would have loved to have seen. But do I blame him? No. I would like to see him win the UFC title too. But we have to address the issue that will he fight T Wood? And everyone says no. Everyone says no, he will not fight T Wood. No, that they're friends. No, they're training partners. But I'm going to keep going back to it. Money does strange things to people, man. It does really strange things to people. So, yeah, don't forget that, man. You see, everyone's got to remember that, the promotion will get in their ear. The promotion will talk to them about it all. And they will say, hey, what about if we pitch it this way? What if we pitch it that way? What happens if T Wood goes up and gets smoked and was like, I was a champion down at 170. Ben's got the title now. I need that money back, man. I need to make some money. So what are you going to do then? You're not going to deny him because, he went up to avoid having to fight his teammate. But, he's going to come back down and saying, hey, I want that money now. I need that strap. Man, get the strap, right? Get the strap. We talking 50 here. So he's like, to me, it's gonna make it a little weird and strange at the UFC for a bit, but it definitely makes for entertainment. But I'm telling you guys now, mark my words. Once Ben loses, they're gonna find a way to cut him, or they're gonna find a way to put him down to the undercard of Facebook fights. He won't even be on the Fight Pass. He'll be on the before Fight Pass fights. It's not even. That's what they do. They're notorious for doing that. They did it with Jake Shields. They did those type of things with those guys. John Fitch too. Once he lost one, they were like, okay, look, let's bump him down to some lower level fights, and they're notorious for doing that. If they don't like you or they don't like your fighting style, they're going to bump you down and then find ways to get rid of you. Antonio McKee, Damian Maia, Talis Latis, they couldn't do anything because they couldn't get rid of them because they were winning. But then as soon as they started losing, as soon as they lost one, they bumped them down to the no-name fights. So those are things to keep in mind. All right, guys. So other than that, we're going to talk real quickly about the Floyd Mayweather thing. We're going to talk real quick about the Floyd Mayweather thing. The fight was never going to happen, man. Even if it did happen, it was going to be an exhibition. And what I mean by exhibition is a work. It was going to be one of those WWE style, fights where Floyd throws a punch or two and the guy goes down. It was going to be something you see straight out of a movie. It was never going to happen the way that we thought. And I believe that it was, this whole deal right here on how they had it all staged, and I tend not to believe a whole lot of.
Buddy?
Oh, my throat is.
Here, do you want this one? Oh, okay.
I tend not to believe a whole lot of that comes out of Floyd's mouth, but for some reason, anyone who's ever dealt with Pride has a good understanding of how Pride works. And I'll give you for instance. When I fought Kawajiri, I took the fight on 12 days notice or something like that. I'm sitting at a Warriors game courtside, eating chicken strips and fries and drinking a beer. And Scott Coker calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to fight on the New Year's Eve show in less than 2 weeks against Aoki?" And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really been training, da-da-da-da-da. And he goes, there's a lot of money. And he tells me the figure. And I'm like, I put the drink down. I put the chicken strips down. And I left the Oakland Coliseum. I left right then and there. I went home and ran, 5-6 miles. And that was 12, 13 days before the fight. Now, mind you, we're fighting in Saitama Arena in Japan. And I show up there. So I really only had a week and a half to train. Then I show up to the venue. I show up to the to the hotel in Japan. I land at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Get to my hotel, get checked in, and I sleep and I wake up. I get ready to have breakfast, and I get a phone call from Scott Coker, and he's like, "Hey, they want you to fight Kawajiri now." And I'm like, all right, what's going on? And I'm like, well, they want to match Aoki up against this kickboxer guy, and they want you to fight Kawajiri, and they're willing to pay you this much more. And I'm like, which was half of what they had originally offered me just to fight Aoki. So they offered me almost another double. It was half of what I was actually getting paid. They offered me that on top of it. So I was and I had already just was okay, yeah, I'm going to fight no matter what. I'm already in Japan. And they offered me more money. I'm like, oh, for sure. Yeah, why not? Why not? So, just to make it clear, this was by far, you could combine almost all of my UFC fights and it was more money than that. So it made it worth it. It made it worth, but they do this. The history is shown, and you can ask all the guys from Vanderlei to Baroni to anyone you can get a hold of. Mark Coleman, that had fought in Pride, you could ask them. This type of stuff happens all the time in Japan. So the fact that when Floyd went over there and was yeah, I thought I was going over there to do an exhibition for a bunch of rich guys, that we're going to pay a lot of money. He's like, this type of stuff happens all the time. I believe him for some weird, odd reason. I believe Floyd that this is exactly how they do these type of things. They try to put you on the spot, I think, when you get there, and it happens. And so for me not to think that this didn't happen, I believe it is. I believe it happened almost exactly the way that he said it happened. And it's crazy. To think that, but yeah, I think so. I think it happened that way. So to think, who are you looking at right there?
Yeah, I was looking at yours. Just I was looking to see.
Yeah, to think that it didn't happen that way is kind of strange. Given the Japanese, I've seen how the Japanese have done business, and everyone loves fighting over there. You know, as long as you put on an exciting fight, they'll always have you back. They'll always pay you a ton of money. You know, going over there, Japanese people are so nice, so fun to be around. All these things. I enjoyed being over there a lot. But yeah, it's to believe that something like that to not believe it, you have to understand that once you've been there, you should understand that that's exactly how it is. That's exactly how it is over there. When it comes to showing up and them changing the floor plan. They're like, okay, look, this is gonna happen. Okay, this is what's going on. Okay, the next thing you know, you're face to face with this 20-year-old kickboxing kid, and we're gonna fight inside Tama Arena on New Year's Eve. And he's thinking to himself, "What the hell did I just sign up for?" And you know what he was probably else? You know what else he was thinking? He was thinking, "All right, get me back to Las Vegas, where I'm on U.S. territory, and then I'll say whatever it is I need to say, because I ain't saying shit right now with all these gangsters here." You know, surrounding me. So it's pretty funny. I mean, I've been around, you know, people can say they've been around it, but it's a different experience to be around like people from the mafia or people that you know have some sort of like power like that. It's a different feeling. It's almost like a sense of, I wouldn't say helplessness, but it's that, oh man, you know, you feel the energy of probably a good time just to kind of keep my mouth shut and mosey on throughout my day. So,
hey,
good stuff.
Did you fight in the Playboy Mansion?
Yeah, twice.
Really?
Yeah, I fought at the Playboy Mansion twice.
How's that set up?
It was a small venue. I mean, it's only like 700 people. I think at the max 700 people. Invite only. You got to pre-buy your tickets. I think each ticket was like $1,500 a ticket.
Oh.
Yeah, it's expensive.
That's crazy.
But you're there fighting in the back. Hugh Hefner sitting cage side. You know, it was cool, man. Yeah, I was the co-main event on, I think main event or I was the co-main event on both of them. So, but good. It was a good card, man. Both cards were good. They were fun. It was just fun to be there. I think the media loved it the most because they didn't have to fight and they got to go to the Playboy Mansion both times. So it was pretty funny. But you had to get pre-approval. Like everything was done. Like, you know, legit security was there. We were bussed in, bussed out. I mean, the whole deal. So it was cool, man. We had a good time. Fun times.
Your boy
Baroni. We were just talking about Phil Baroni. Fights Chris Lieben in bare knuckle boxing. He came out like, I want to say like the last 2 weeks. Oh, man. Just hard, man.
Yep.
It's hard to watch, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've had this conversation about a lot of guys. It has nothing to do with not knowing when to quit. It just has to do with just understanding that your mind and your body is not what it used to be. I think it's hard for people to understand that. You know, it's hard. I think when I see Chris Lieben fighting, I'm thinking to myself, man, why? You know, I mean, I know these bare knuckle boxing people, they're paying a lot of money. I mean, they're paying a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they are. So they're paying more than some of the top, you know, lightweights and bantamweights and that are fighting in the UFC.
What?
Yeah. Some of those guys, some of the top UFC and Bellator and ONE FC guys, you know, in the lower weights, they're not making much. These guys are doing one fight and they're making, you know, decent money. You know, it sucks. It sucks to see.
What do you mean?
Guys.
What
I
sucks
keep clearing
about
my
it?
throat. Sorry.
Like it sucks that they're kind of being exploited, or
No. I'm glad they're making money. I mean, it just sucks to see these guys fight. I mean, like I don't enjoy watching, you know, the older guys. I don't enjoy watching the older guys fight and get hurt. That's the thing, you know. And so when you see these guys, you see them fighting, you see them doing. They're still doing well. Like look at DC's 39, doing well at the top of his game. Baroni's 42 and he's had a rough career, man. Like, he had some tough fights early in his career, you know. I don't know, man. You got Chris Lieben. I mean, like, all these fights. I don't know I don't know how to. I can't wrap my head around these guys fighting like anymore. I don't get it. But then again, they're not really where what I had in mind for myself. Life after fighting. I had life after fighting in my mind was to do things like this, was to do a podcast, was to try and do TV, was to try and do all these things, you know, whether it was work with, you know, own a gym, be a business owner, do whatever it was. But my ultimate goal at the end of it all was to be able to hold a conversation and be able to have this conversation with people and talk, you know, try to talk at a high level with whatever they were talking about, you know. And so I don't see that in some of the guys, and it's sad to see. Some of them have a hard time having a conversation. Some of them stutter. Some of them just are not the same people that when I met them, you know, 15 years ago. So and I don't mean like they've changed their personality based on like, oh, they have money or they don't have money or they're broke or they're not broke or whatever it is. No, I'm talking about like you talk to them and they're not the same person. They're not, their energy level is not the same. They are either all the way up or they're depressed, you know. Those are all signs and things of, you know, of CTE. And when you see it, it's upsetting, you know. But what are you gonna do? Nothing you can do about it.
Did you see Miesha Tate?
Yeah. So
one.
I just texted
how like one just seems to have like come up at like the talk around that promotion just seems to have like come up all over the place.
Yeah. Well, of course. And when you sign somebody like an Eddie Alvarez, that was huge. And then when you're able to do the trade with, if you're able to do the trade with the UFC, the one thing that I want, the one thing, look, I used to work for ONE FC. I worked for them for a couple of years doing case-side commentary for them. What I think is they are their own business. They do their own thing. I think that the UFC looks at them as no threat at all. And
Dana's friend owns it as well, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Chatri is his friend. You know, I wouldn't say Chatri is his friend. But Dana's also worked with Matt Hume, who was Rich Franklin's coach. Rich Franklin does work for them. Now Miesha Tate. And they're making some big moves. So we'll see. But you have to also remember they're an Asia they're an Asia promotion. Man, I'm having like an episode right now. I can't even get through it.
It's that old age, buddy.
Huh?
It's old age. It's the old age. You can't handle the cold.
Yeah, wow.
You're going stiff.
Yeah, so I think that there's a connection between the two. Whether they can get deals done or not, for the future, I don't know. We'll see. But they're not they're in Asia. They don't come to the States. They're not in Canada. They're not in the US. They're not in Mexico. They're not in South America. I'm interested to see where it all heads. They've got good talent. I mean, I could see them potentially trying to maybe go to Mexico now. They got Eddie Alvarez. You know, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of what's going on. I don't see exactly what else they're gonna do. They're gonna stay in Beijing. They're gonna stay in Kuala Lumpur. They're gonna stay in Jakarta, Singapore, Manila. You know, they're gonna stay over there on that side, from what I understand. There was talk about them trying to get to Brazil and maybe do a show in Brazil in the future, but that was also 2 years ago when I heard that, and I haven't seen them do it yet. So, we'll see. They're making some big moves. They have Rich Franklin. I want to say is like their president of operations or something like that. They got Matt Hume. They just signed Miesha Tate. You know, I mean, they've got big names all surrounding them and around it, but are those names big names in Asia? That's what you have to ask yourself. Are they big names? Sure, they're probably big names in Singapore, but are they big names outside of Singapore? Are they big names anywhere else? And so you have to ask yourself that. We'll see. So I think the last thing we're going to touch up on is Henry Cejudo and TJ Dillashaw apparently fighting for the 125-pound division. I kind of think what they're going to do is they're going to hold up the division a little bit. And they're going to have TJ go down in weight to 125, fight for the title there, try to win it. If he wins it, they will shut down the division, and Henry will go up. If he loses, they may try to gear the 125-pound division around Henry Cejudo. That's the only thing I can think of. Because now you have a viable champion who beat another champion who's the champion at the upper weight class. Or you could say that if Henry beats TJ at 125, then they don't need to have that 125-pound division, and they can just bump him up to the 135 and have him fight TJ at 135 for the title there, which means you're going to be on hold for another year in the 135-pound division.
Who's going to be on hold?
The whole division.
135?
Yeah, because if they're going to fight at 125, and what happens if Henry wins? Then does Henry go up to 135 and fight for the title there, which will put that fight on hold again? Because TJ will still be champion, I think, at 135.
Yeah.
So if Henry beats him at 125, what's to say that he doesn't go up to 135 and try to win the title then? He gets an automatic shot because he just beat him at 125. So that whole division will be held up for at least a year.
That's a good card as well.
Oh, is that Makhachev versus Cowboy?
Yeah,
it is. Do they have a date on that?
That's the card. That's the Anaheim card.
Anaheim.
January 26th.
January 26th. All right.
This is the one for...
Same night as the...
Yep.
Yeah. Who's the main event? Doesn't say.
It's probably going to be this one. So it says the fight would be the main event to an already stacked cards with Ben Askren, Robbie Lawler, Dominic Cruz, John Lineker, and Paul Felder and James White.
They're trying to do whatever they can to get away from the heavyweight Grand Prix from Fedor. And they are.
Is that the same night?
Same exact night.
Oh, January 26th.
Yep, same exact night.
Where is that fight?
Is this pay-per-view?
Yep, UFC 233.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough, man. I mean, all they're doing, that sucks because all they're doing is splitting fans.
Isn't that the point of the game? Competition.
No, normally like promotions don't like to put a lot of money into something, knowing that they're gonna
hurt buys.
Huh?
Knowing that it's gonna hurt the buys.
Yeah. Especially pay-per-view right now. Especially pay-per-view right now. Like the money's not there. No one's buying them just to buy them. Islam, good card, man. Islam. That's a tough fight for him. Cowboy's tough. Yep.
And then my home girl, Joanne Calderwood.
No, your girl, huh? Your Scottish girl? She's from Scotland. The other one's from Brazil, huh? Anyways, what were we just talking about? The fly. Yeah, so if TJ goes down, if TJ wins, Henry will, Henry will go up. If TJ loses, Henry will go. They basically, I think, just so that TJ can have his title shot for two championship belts. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. We'll see. It makes for an interesting card. It does. It makes for an interesting fight card. It kind of sucks they're doing them both the same night, but.
What do you think they'll just force the 125 division or hey, fight at 35 or go find another promotion?
I think they'll just shut it down.
A shame, man.
Go back to the division. Let me see. Yeah, because that whole division's gone now. If you think about it, right? You have the only guy that's really on there that they would probably try to say would be Joseph Benavidez.
He's really small. I can't imagine him at 35.
I can't imagine him at 35 either. But he is getting a little bit older. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they'll do something where they
Maybe they'll put him in a broadcast position or something. He's kind of doing all his. You see that Dapper Scrapper that he's doing, where he like takes pictures of the fighters like at the event. It's like his little Instagram thing that he does.
Yeah, I like him, man. He got a cool little style to him. You know,
he's a quirky dude. It's funny we're talking about alpha male guys last week, or when Adam was on the show.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Danny because he's doing a jiu-jitsu match with Danny. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Danny Castillo.
Yeah. There was one time, so I was at a local show one time, and one of the alpha male guys was fighting Josh Emmett, who we had on the podcast, and it was before he got in the UFC, and Josh Emmett he won his like last local fight before he got to the UFC, and it was like a big fight, and so the Team Alpha Male like Instagram page, they put out a post on Instagram saying like of Josh's win, and they put in the caption like, everybody tag Dana White to get him in the UFC. So everybody's tagging Dana White, and Danny goes on there and goes to tag Dana White, but I guess when he types DAN, his own name came up first, and so he clicked on, I guess that's what he did, is he clicked on his own name and hit submit comment without realizing he tagged himself. So someone screenshotted him tagging himself, and then they screenshotted the caption saying everybody tagged Dana White, and like they posted a picture of like Danny tagging himself and basically making fun of Danny, right? So then I saw that picture and I went in the comments and I put the laughing emoji, you know, like the cry laughing one. And then Danny fucking replied to me in the comments saying, "You think that's funny, motherfucker? I'll kick your ass." And I was like, why the fuck's he targeting me? I think he recognized me, from like when I used to go up there. And then, but then I had to go film at Alpha Male like the next week with one of the fighters, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to go in here because he's gonna be mad.
What a pussy! You're such a pussy,
bro. And then so I go to the gym and I'm in there and I walk in and Danny's like teaching a class and I'm like, fuck, he's gonna see me. He's gonna beat my ass right now. And so I'm like hanging out, just kind of trying to keep my head low. I text the fighter that I was filming with. I was like, hey, make sure Danny doesn't beat me up. And then he finishes the class and everybody's like hanging out, and then Danny's going around everybody. He's like high-fiving, like good job today. And then he gets to me. He like gets up to me and he like puts his hand and he's like, "What's up, dude?" He said something like we're cool or something like, "Oh, we're good" or whatever. And I was like, thank fuck, man.
You're funny.
Thought he was gonna beat me up, man.
I would have loved to have seen it. We should film that.
Danny's crazy though, man. Like I've seen him out and about, like at local shows, and like he gets upset.
We should do this thing where I train you, like a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and we try to go around to gyms and see if you can catch a fighter in a submission. I think that'd be the coolest thing ever.
Oh, dude, man, get my ass beat so bad.
It's all right. If we can get Sammy the 20-year blue belt.
Huh?
We can get Sammy the 20-year blue belt. See if he can catch a fighter in a submission. All right, guys. Well, hey, sorry about the throat. Man, it's bugging the crap out of me.
We have a big week ahead of us.
Oh, yes, we do have a big week ahead of us. Tomorrow we will be filming I will be doing a 2-hour show with Mind Pump Media. So check them out on iTunes, YouTube, all those things. My interview with them will be tomorrow. Also, we will be turning around and interviewing them as well. So all the guys from Mind Pump Sal, Mind Pump Justin, all these guys that are on there. So we'll be interviewing them. And we will go from there. And then right after that, we have a special guest we will be filming with also. So I will not let you be told that, but we will have him as well. I will not tell you who it is. You guys will have to see.
That's a separate podcast.
That's a separate podcast. That will be a separate podcast. So
awesome.
That'll be a good one. So we'll be dropping a lot of knowledge tomorrow. Hopefully by tomorrow night or Tuesday.
And do you want to talk about next weekend or not?
Next weekend is Dwayne Ludwig. So someone that I fought before in the past. Also the head coach of TJ Dillashaw. So we will have him on as well. Please don't miss that. That will be entertaining as all hell. And we will go from there, man. I'm excited. This next couple weeks is going to be huge. Yeah. Here we go. DR with Punk's Opinion. Thanks for tuning in, and follow us on IG, Instagram, Twitter. Also follow me at TheRealPunk on IG, Twitter, those type of things. Also, Sammy and the Punk at Sammy and the Punk on IG, Twitter, and Facebook. All right, and we are out.